Hello everybody and welcome back to Tidepool Aquatics. So today I am going to be doing two videos. The first video is I want to talk about the biggest problem that I see new reefers dealing with, and which causes problems and they struggle and stuff. The biggest problem that I see, at least from where I am here, and I've had to help a lot of people. The next video, which is going to be later tonight, that I'm going to have to do, well, midnight, I have a new coral order coming, so I will be unboxing that and taking you along for the journey. However, this video is about the single biggest problem that I find with new reefers, and it usually just defines whether they have success in the first, few months, or how much money they sometimes have to spend a lot of money trying to fix the problem. And I'm sorry, I'm just like jumping between corals here. Here, I'll just show you this blue alveopora. It's currently my favorite coral in the tank. And I believe that, doing a video might help, because, I can't talk to everyone and explain them through it, and not everyone talks to me and stuff, so, I love to help. That's what I'm here for. I love to help and watch people succeed in the hobby. That's the main reason that I do this, to be honest. So, that problem is salinity. Salinity is the single biggest issue that I notice with people just coming into the hobby. Now, I'm not sure if it's maybe a lack of research prior, or lack of being told when they're first buying a tank. Or I'm also joined by Zoe here. Hello, Zoe. A lack of research, or just, in general, just no help for people in, coming into the hobby. So, many times I will be contacted and asked, hey, I've just had my torch coral or Trachyphilia, like this one here, and a little bit of has died on the edge of it, and it's struggling, and I don't know why. I'm not sure what's happened. It was doing well and open and happy, and I've got a new power head and the flow is all good, and then suddenly stuff starts to go wrong. They might lose a fish, they might lose just one coral, they might lose a bunch of corals, things might just look unhappy, algae can sometimes just start to bloom. And I have found that they'll call me out, and I do a maintenance side of this business where I go out to people's houses, I will do water changes, give them advice, see what's going on, do water testing, and the first thing that I always test is salinity. So salinity is the number one parameter in a reef tank. Without a good salinity, nothing can survive. So you have to have good salinity for you to succeed. And what tends to happen is, if you don't have your salinity on point, all the other tests that I do, when I go out there, I test nitrate, alkalinity, magnesium, calcium, phosphate, all those things. If the salinity is not right, those tests are usually off by however much. Each one can be off by a different amount. So I make sure to test salinity first, just to make sure that's good, because otherwise there's almost no point in me doing other things. And quite often, if they're a new reefer, they will have a high salinity. Often 1.029, 1.028. I tend to find that's when people call me out, because that's when their stuff starts to die. So that's what I have noticed. And then what ends up happening is they might either lose that torch or whatever coral, and they buy ridiculous amounts of RO water, because usually they don't have an RO filter. So I will either give them some RODI water. I don't mind giving them some, or just charging a little bit less, just to get them out of the problem that they've gotten into, you know. And then after they come out of it, they're usually perfectly fine. Now, how the issue occurs, I've had a few different people, scenarios. The first one tends to be with all-in-one tanks that don't have a sump. And what ends up happening is they will not realize that the water in the back section of the all-in-one tank, where all the filter stuff is going down by much. Or if it does go down, they'll just assume that they need to top it up with salt water for some reason. And that can be with any tank, but I have seen it with all-in-one, people who own all-in-one tanks more, so I'm not sure why. Actually, this one's not specific to all-in-one tanks. When you do a water change, people usually have this on the side, something similar to this. I have it on the side of the coral tank. This is the max level that the tank can be. If this drops below this line, which it is currently, I know that water has taken out. In my case, because I run the coral farm, it could be that I've taken out water for someone to sell on the coral, in which case I'm taking out salt water, not fresh water, so I'll have to replace it with salt water. So I check the salinity of this tank as often as I can to make sure it's all good. But if I know I haven't sold anything in a while, then I know that has caused by evaporation, and I need to fill the tank back up to that line. So, but what would happen is I know people who would have this line, and they would be really good at making sure it always goes back up to this line when they have evaporation. But what will happen is water change day will come, and they will not adjust this before doing the water change. They will take out some water, how much ever much, out of the sump, and then as soon as they put the water in, they maybe they don't think about the fact that this was lower, so they'll put in and fill up with salt water up until this line, which means you've now added that much salt water, which means you're going to increase the salinity over time, because you're topping up with salt water essentially and not fresh water. That is that thing that I notice happens a lot. And I suggest anytime you go to do a water change, you always top up your fresh water to exactly where it's meant to be beforehand. Or you do what I usually do, which if I can... So, or you do what I normally do is I have these 25-litre water jugs. Hold on. Yes. These 25-litre water jugs. Now, I will empty out exactly to the 25-litre line on this water jug, and then I will fill up another water jug that's exactly the same size to that line, and I will replace that water, which means I don't need to check if my salinity, if my fresh water has been topped off. I just need to make sure that I put the same amount of water in the jug, so I'm always taking out and adding the same amount. So that is one option there. Otherwise, yes, topping up, making sure that is good. That tends to be where I find people struggle the most. And then maybe just having inaccurate salinity measuring devices. Measuring devices is a really bad word. That's not how. Anyway, things to measure salinity. I tend to find people who have inaccurate ones, such as hydrometers that are the very cheap hydrometers, the ones that just bob in the water, are not great. Oftentimes they will be out and people think that their salinity is fine, or it's too high, too low, and they'll try and adjust it and it ends up being wrong. So definitely be sure to make sure you have a good device for measuring salinity. Refractometers are almost always the best in my opinion. Certain brands are better than others, but in general, as long as you keep them reasonably well calibrated often. You make sure your temperature of your RO water that you use to calibrate your refractometer is the same temperature as your tank, usually around 25 degrees Celsius. How much ever that is in Fahrenheit, I don't know, freedom units. And that will make sure you have the most accuracy possible. The other option that a lot of people have, and people have been telling people off about it, also this is a clown that hosts a Tractophilia. I don't know why. He sleeps in that's the male. The female is actually down in that yellow carpet anemone, but no, the male sleeps up here. Don't know why. Well, I lost my train. The one people that go with is the Hana Salinity Pen. Please, please, please do not spend the money on a Hana Salinity Pen. They are incredibly bad, inaccurate. They just do not. You need to calibrate them perfectly every time for it to work. And if you don't, it's going to give you basically no value that you really care about. So you're better off just spending the money on a refractometer and being done with it, and not having to buy calibration solutions and stuff that Hana make. In general, it's just not a good product. A lot of people have lost stuff because of them, had tank crashes because of them. In my case, I know of a client of mine who used one, and they've been having salinity issues ever since, until I told them that it's not worth it. My refractometer is saying otherwise, so I would just recommend going with that. But yeah, I think that's about it for this video. Another video for the unboxing will be out later in the week. I just wanted to really talk about the biggest problem that I find with beginners in the hobby today, at least where I'm from, up here in North Queensland in Australia: salinity. Make sure you have your salinity on point and everything will generally go well from there. Anyway, this has been me. I have nothing more to say, just to show off corals. I do like the, I love these so much. These are 25 bucks, these frags here of this blue alveopore. I love it so much. But yeah, anyway, I will see you guys next time, and happy reefing.